let's do this color discovery chart with red. And so we'll see how it turns out. So you can use any paint you have. I'm just sticking with these acrylics and kind of the main colors just to illustrate how the chart helps us learn, how to manipulate colors. So I've got some cadmium red here that I just squeezed. Some golden, just basic cadmium red. And I've got it on my palette paper. So I'm going to put my starting color right here in the center. And I just printed this on printer paper. It's a good, not a heavy paper, but it's not the cheapest paper. But I think if you use just a good quality printer paper, you should be fine. Or you can, of course, just take this, the way this chart looks, and just use it on watercolor paper or another mixed media paper. Actually, I feel like mixed media paper or Bristol paper is better for this exercise because the watercolor soaks right into the paint soaks right into watercolor paper, and you can't mix it as well to kind of get a sense of it. All right, so now we're going to take some red and we're going to cool darken it. So we're going to add some Payne's Gray, which I have right here. And boy, do you only need a teeny bit of Payne's Gray to do this. In fact, I'm just going to go like that because you'll turn it black pretty quickly. Payne's Gray is a cool dark. So yeah, you can see look at that, even though I grabbed just a tiny bit. So there's my cool darkened color. Now I'm going to try the burnt umber and do a warm, same thing here, just a teeny bit. We'll get some of my red. I can even put it on here first and then grab a little of my burnt umber. Get a smidge more. I want to kind of make it the same amount of darkness that I have over here, just so we can really see the difference between a warm dark and a cool dark. Yeah. So we darkened it with the burnt umber, which made it a warm dark. Look at the difference. It's the same color here. I think it's fascinating. All right, now we're going to lighten it. That's pretty easy. We just add a little bit of white. I've got titanium white here. Obviously, depending on your white, your shade will be different. Sometimes I lighten with a buff white. I can show you that here as well, just for kicks. But here's the regular white. Grab a little bit of red. And, we knew what would happen there, right? We know what it looks like to add white. But I don't know if you did know that adding white makes colors much more opaque. So sometimes I'll do it just to increase the opacity, and because I love opaque paint, that's why I like gouache. But you can see how much more opaque this looks than any of these because of the white. Now let me grab my buff white just for fun to show you, because I do use a lot of colors like this in golden. It's called Titan Buff, but usually it's called ivory. Like if I'm using my gouache, here it is in ivory white. This is a Holbein aqua gouache. You can make an off white, but it's one of those colors that I use enough that I just buy it, so I don't have to keep mixing it. But I use it to mix, so it's kind of fun to see what it does. Let's see what it does with the red compared to just the regular white. It'll be subtle if we see any change at all. And I'll just put that down here. Get a little of that buff. It's almost like my experience is it's kind of like a warm, I guess it is a warm white, so it ends up lightening it in a bit warmer way, almost as if I added a teeny bit of yellow, which of course is probably what's in the buff. So that's with buff white. All right, now let's go over here to brighten. So brighten, remember we are adding either a fluorescent or a brighter shade of that color. So if I've got this red, and let's say, so this is my cadmium red, but let's say I have this quinacridone red light, and let's say it's a little brighter, or any red that's a little brighter, I could add it to that to brighten it up. But what really brightens it up, you can imagine, is the fluorescent. And I have gotten more into fluorescents lately. You know, I usually tone them down, but they just they can really make things pop. And even if you just add a little bit, goes a long way. So there we have brightened the red. And of course you can add as much or as little of it as you want. So now we're going to subdue it, tone it down, create something that could become a natural gray. And so we'll refer to our color wheel, and all we do is go to red, which is right here, and look opposite the red. Green. A red-orange is a blue-green. So I just need to mix it with a green. I could also use the teal. We'll do that just for fun. I'm going to grab this oxide green. It doesn't really matter what green. And then we'll see just for fun the difference between the blue-green with the red. So I'm going to take it, again, it's only going to take the teeniest bit with our red. I need to make sure I'm using clean red, not red that I've mixed with something else. So you're going to see how the complementary color, opposite on the color wheel, will tone down a color, take the intensity of it down every time. And if you keep going with it, adding more of it, you can make these beautiful neutrals. So when I'm thinking about a color, let's say, you know, if you know my work at all, you know that it gets pretty darn colorful. And sometimes I'm like, okay, Suzanne, you need to throw in some neutrals here and calm this whole thing down. And not every color has to be a show of the painting. So I'll do this and then add some white, which I'm not going to do here because I just want you to see it this way. But I'll take the complement and then add white and just get a really, well, I guess I can show you that. Let's grab a piece of paper and show you what happens if you add the red. Let me get a little more red. And the green. I guess I need a little bit more. There you are. And then a bit of white so we can get a pretty gray. Okay. Just scooch you up here. Here's my white. See. It'll either be, so you can work toward a gray or a neutral, basically. And maybe a little more green. You can take it as far as you want, but you're going to end up with a nice neutral color. See? That's red with its complement and a little bit of white. And you get what they call natural grays. And because you could take your color, your main color, in this case red, and add some gray, but they end up looking kind of flat. That gray just, it's just not as, I don't know, unique and interesting as a gray made this way. And doing that down here with the complement will always give you a muted color. All right, now let's just for kicks try the red with the teal, the blue-green, because it is, you know, close to it on the, you know, so you go opposite. You know, these colors are interesting too, added to the complement. Anything in here is going to be interesting. So let's see what it looks like. I need to get more red. Get my cadmium red here. And because my red's gotten all mucked up here. When you're doing this exercise, you need to clean out your brush in between, obviously, to get a true sense of it, or you'll just end up mixing it all together and they'll all look the same. So here's my red. cadmium red. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of this teal. They call it teal. It's a beautiful color, by the way. My two favorite turquoises are the Winsor Newton Gouache Cobalt Turquoise Light, and then for acrylic it's this one, the Teal Blue Lagoon. All right, let's add a little bit of that. So it tones it down, and it's a bit cooler. Can you see the difference? That's because green is warmer than teal, so we get a cooled down version here. Anyway, you can see that you could go on forever. You could keep adding different things to alter it, and we haven't even mixed like a color, a primary with a primary. This is just variations on red. So we'll do a couple more of these, but I just love this exercise to be able to see on one page. If I've got my red and I want to warm it, darken it, I do the burnt umber. If I want to cool darken it, I do the Payne's gray, lighten, brighten, and subdue. So I hope that's helpful.